The last few months have been a lot. I have been finding it easier and easier to quiet that voice in my head that tells me to worry about what other people are thinking when they're perceiving me. I feel like I am becoming more and more myself. I feel so free. That's the biggest thing. I feel free. I have been sitting here for like 20 minutes at least, agonizing over the perfect way to start this video and the perfect way to, I don't know, say what I want to say. And I'm realizing that that's just wasting my time. There is no perfect way to do this, first of all. And second, I'm so out of practice at this point. It's been so long since I last filmed a video that it's just not gonna be perfect. You know, like I am gonna have to relearn how to do this, and the only way to do that is to fucking do it. So that's where I'm at right now. I am finally coming out of the fog that I've been in since October. The last few months have been a lot, hence why I've been gone for so long. But I'm finally starting to feel some clarity coming back to me. Why do I want to cry already? Jesus Christ. I finally feel a sense of clarity coming back to me after what feels like so long. I feel clear-headed. I feel clear on what I know is best for me. I feel clear on what it is I need. And the fog has lifted enough for me to actually be able to feel joy again. There was a good chunk of time there where I was really missing being able to honestly say that I love life and I love being alive. I feel like I can say that now, and I have said that on multiple occasions recently. I've just found myself saying it to myself, either thinking it in my head or like just saying it out loud to myself when I'm alone, and just experiencing something that brings me joy or pleasure or just a sense of contentment. I have found myself just like smiling and just saying, this life is so beautiful. I love being alive. And even in the darkest moments of the last few months, I knew deep down that I would feel this again, that I would feel my zest for life returning, and I would get to say with my whole chest that I love this life and I love being alive. But at the surface, during my darkest moments, I was scared that I wouldn't feel this again, or at least that it would be a really long time till I would be able to. But thankfully, here I am, in the grand scheme of things, not too long after things were really bad. And I don't want to talk too in depth today about what all was going on during that time. I do think that I want to talk about that more in depth at some point. In fact, I've been, for like over a month at this point, I've been working on a video going more in depth into one thing in particular, which is my autism diagnosis. I got diagnosed with autism in January, and that was a huge blessing. The sense of relief that I felt when I got diagnosed, and the relief that I have felt ever since, I can't describe it. It was important to me for so many reasons. The most pressing of them was the fact that I was deep in autistic burnout. I don't feel equipped today to explain to anybody who doesn't know what autistic burnout is, what it is. If I can remember, I will link some videos in the description that do a really good job at explaining what autistic burnout is. But essentially, I was super fucking depressed for a while, but it wasn't just depression, and I knew that. I knew that whatever it was that was like at the root of it all, it's more than depression. Depression is just a byproduct of whatever else is going on. I was so exhausted all of the time. Oh my god, I want to cry again just thinking about it. full disclosure, I'm on my period right now, so I'm like extra tender and sensitive about everything. I did not realize that I was still so tender about the burnout and the depression and all of that, but I am. It was rough. I was exhausted all of the time. Literally every little thing involved in existing and maintaining my life felt so hard. Doing my laundry felt like such a massive feat to accomplish. My chronic illness symptoms got worse too. Before I even realized that something is wrong, that I am burnt out or headed toward burnout, I feel my pain flare up. That's the first thing that I notice. In fact, when I think back to November and December, before it occurred to me that what I was experiencing was autistic burnout, I remember the very first thing that I noticed that was wrong was my pain was flaring up and it was not getting better. And this goes as far back as October. My pain started getting really, really bad, seemingly out of nowhere. And no matter what I did, it just would not get better. And thank God I eventually realized that it was autistic burnout and that I could do something about it, because if I didn't, I probably would still be severely flared up when it comes to my pain as well as the fatigue. Thankfully, I can say at this point that my pain has gone back down to its normal levels, which still is not great, but it's livable, it's manageable for me. Anyway, I didn't think I was gonna get so into that today, but yeah, pretty much the one thing that made me realize it was important to seek a diagnosis was the fact that I realized I was experiencing autistic burnout. And just to give you a little bit of context at this point in time, I have experienced autistic burnout before, and I knew that. I hadn't yet been diagnosed, but I experienced severe and long-lasting autistic burnout from the time I was 18 to like 19 or 20. I'll get into all that in a future video. But at one point, sometime in December, I just had a light bulb moment, and it just occurred to me that, oh my God, this is autistic burnout. I feel like I can finally give myself permission to care for myself the way I actually need, and not the way I think I'm supposed to need, if that makes sense. At this point, I am committed to not pushing myself past my limits, because that's what I was doing for a good 2 years, and that's why I ended up in autistic burnout. During that time, I was essentially treating myself as if I was neurotypical, which is extra silly because even though I didn't have an autism diagnosis, I did have an ADHD diagnosis. So I don't know what the fuck I was on about when I was like trying to exist the way I think neurotypicals exist and function. Like, I'm not built that way, and I'm never going to function the way a neurotypical functions, so I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. But I know better now, thankfully, and especially because I ended up in autistic burnout. This knowledge is so fresh in my mind, how important it is to give myself the care that I need, not somebody else needs, not what I think I should need, and not forcing myself to function the way that I think I'm supposed to function. I can only work with what I've got. I can only function with the brain that I actually have, not the one that I, for a long time, wished that I had. And while that was a really depressing thought for a short time, now I find it really liberating. It is such a relief to know that I don't have to keep living that way. I'm actually starting to believe that like maybe it is possible to live a life that is easy, at least easier than what I was doing before, and that does not have to mean I sacrifice my goals and dreams for myself. It's not an either or, it's a both and. Like, I can both take care of myself the way I need and achieve my goals. Who fucking knew? But I really do believe that for probably the first time ever in my life. And that is a big, big, big deal to me. I'm in a season of life right now where I am very steadfast in my belief that I do not have to be realistic about what I want for my life, and I do not need to force myself to function in a way that other people function or in a way that anybody else thinks I should function. I'm the only one responsible for living my life. I am the only person who gets to decide what is right for me, and I feel more confident in that fact than I ever have before. And I do think that my diagnosis was a huge catalyst for that, which I am so deeply grateful for. I cannot even express it to you. Like, I actually feel good about life right now. That alone is huge. Because for a while there, I could not even remember what that felt like. I could not remember what it felt like to be excited about what's to come in my life. I couldn't remember what it felt like to love being alive and feel deep and far-reaching joy. And I feel like I finally have access to those things again. And like, I feel so free. That's the biggest thing. I feel free. And I'm so grateful. I'm so fucking grateful to be where I am right now. And I'm so looking forward to spring. Like the fact that I am in this place right now where I sort of feel like I'm coming alive again. It's making me really crave springtime even more than I normally would. I went for a walk yesterday and it was like between 50 and 60 degrees and it was so nice. And speaking of having access to joy, I went walking in the woods yesterday for the first time in like a long time. It was just so nice to be surrounded by nature and like actually feel part of it, because for a long time there I was feeling really disconnected from everything. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on this channel, but I love birds and I love bird watching, and birds are one of my special interests. If there is one thing that can like make me stupidly happy, it's like seeing a bird. Like, I love birds so much. And I saw this bird in the woods yesterday and I was like crouching down, like trying to get a good view of it and see what kind of bird it was, and it was a hermit thrush, and I've never seen a hermit thrush before, and I like, that made my day. That just like made my entire day. I was riding that high for hours yesterday. I was so happy because like one thing about me is if I see a bird I've never seen before in real life, I'm gonna be very excited about it, and it's going to just light me up from the inside out, and it did. I was so giddy. I can't even describe to you. I was so happy, and eventually I lost sight of it. It moved out of sight, and then I turned around to keep walking, and out the corner of my eye I see movement. So I look up and I see a hawk just like slowly like flying overhead to then land on a branch, and like what a magical sight. What a magical moment. I love birds so much, like you don't even understand. That kind of joy is something that I did not have access to for like a good while, and I'm just so grateful to have that back. I feel like I'm in a really good place right now, and although I don't feel like I'm 100% out of autistic burnout yet, I'm definitely getting there. I've made a lot of changes in my life in order to recover from autistic burnout, and it's really helping. At first, when I was implementing these changes, I had these worries in the back of my mind about, and don't know if this is gonna be enough. I don't know if like I'm doing the right things. I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, I don't really have experience recovering from autistic burnout, because when I experienced it a decade ago, my life completely came to a halt and I was not really trying to get moving again. I kind of just like leaned into it, which I don't think is necessarily an inherently bad thing or inherently wrong, but it's not where I'm at right now. I'm very much in a place in my life where I want to live my life as fully as possible, and I want to experience as much of what life has to offer as I possibly can. And autistic burnout really throws a wrench in that. So I found it really, really important to do everything I can to recover from this burnout. Yeah, I was a little bit worried that I wasn't doing the right things, or the things I was doing wasn't gonna be enough, but thankfully, like a couple months later, I can confidently say it has made a difference, for sure. I mean, even just the fact that when I was like deep in the thick of autistic burnout, I was suicidal, and I'm not now. Quite the opposite. I want to live my life as fully as possible. And also the fact that when it was at its worst, every day that I had to go to work, it was like the most miserable experience you can imagine. Like, I struggled and struggled and struggled to get myself out of bed on work days. Each day that I went to work, I felt like that would be the one that finally broke me. And I don't feel that way anymore. I did take a little bit of time off work at the start of like when I realized I was in autistic burnout. I was like, I've got to do something. I've got to make a change, and I've got to kickstart my recovery from burnout somehow. So I took a little bit of time off work, but I've since been back to work for a while, and it's very different. I feel so much more equipped to handle work, and that alone is a really big difference. So I do feel like I can confidently say that the things that I've been doing and the changes that I've made to recover from burnout have been successful, and I'm definitely making my way toward a full recovery. Not quite there yet, but I feel really good about where I'm at right now, and I'm extremely grateful for that. Anyway, I have been yapping for so long. I need to go eat lunch. Hi. Hi, baby. Oh my goodness. Gracie says hi. Anyway, after lunch, I think I'm gonna get out my sewing machine. I have been meaning to make alterations to this skirt that I've had for like almost a year now. I've not worn it once because it's like way too long and like drags on the floor. So I need to hem it, and I think I'm gonna do that today because I really want to wear it next Monday. I'm going to see Nightgowns, Sasha Velour's drag show, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I've never seen one of Sasha's shows, and I am like so looking forward to it. It's crazy, and I have an outfit in mind, and I think I want to wear that skirt, so I'm gonna have to make it wearable. So yeah, gonna go eat lunch, get out my sewing machine, and get working on that. I made this spicy vodka pasta the other day, and it is divine. I'll leave a link to the recipe in the description, but I also added sweet Italian pepper, roasted red peppers, and hot Italian sausage, and I think that it brings it all just like to another level. It is so fucking good. One of the things I know is the most important for me to do in order to A, recover from autistic burnout, and B, prevent future autistic burnout is unmasking. And if you're not familiar, masking is basically a thing that not just autistic people, but neurodivergent people in general do to appear less neurodivergent, to basically like appear neurotypical. After getting my diagnosis and reflecting on the last couple of years of my life, I realized just how big a problem masking has been for me. I mean, for one thing, it's just not fun to feel like you have to put on a performance, to feel like you can't just be yourself. But aside from that, it also just takes up a lot of energy, like so much energy. And in fact, when I really think about it, I feel quite strongly that masking was one of the biggest contributing factors to me going into autistic burnout. I didn't even realize that I was doing it. That's quite a common experience, I think, among autistic people, is that before you realize you're autistic or before you get diagnosed, you don't really quite notice that you're doing it. It's just a thing that you've learned over time to do around other people. And it made me kind of sad to realize that it was something I was even doing around my closest friends, and like definitely to a lesser extent around them than anybody else. But the crazy thing is, I was even masking when I was alone, which is so fucked up. And again, I didn't know I was doing it at the time, but looking back, I can very clearly see it. There would be times when I was totally alone, nobody was around, and I would find myself like moving in a certain way or carrying myself in a certain way, and I would suddenly become aware of it and aware of what it might look like from the outside, and I would like stop myself and I would try to look more normal. This was almost like a way for me to train myself to act like or be neurotypical. There was always this part of me that was not a conscious part of me. Like this was not a conscious thought process that was happening, but there was definitely a part of me that was worried about, you know, like, for example, I am not dating anybody right now and haven't for quite a while, but I would worry that, like, you know, what about the next time I'm dating somebody? Like, if they were to be here in my space and see me when I'm like relaxed and at ease and like in my own comfort space, just like being myself without a performance, and like what are they gonna think when they see me the way that I am without performing? So the masking that I was doing when I was by myself was almost like me training myself to be normal so that I would be prepared, I guess, for somebody to be here in my space with me, seeing me when I was at rest. But of course, I wasn't really at rest, was I? If I was performing and, you know, being so conscious of what I looked like from an outside perspective, even when I was alone, that's not rest. That is not rest.
As I'm editing this and listening to myself talk about the masking, it's occurring to me just how deep this actually goes and how much energy I was expending over the last couple of years to make myself as quote unquote normal as possible. I don't think I quite understood just how much energy I was using in pursuit of being normal and neurotypical, and how over time that amounts to autistic burnout and why that happens. And I'm realizing that because I was masking even when I was alone and monitoring myself so closely to make sure that if there were anybody here, I would not be coming off weird and they wouldn't be put off by me or whatever, because I was monitoring myself so closely at literally all times, I don't think that I was getting actual complete rest at any point over the last couple of years of my life. And that is a crazy thing to realize, and I'm gonna have to spend some time processing that. Jesus Christ.
I realized just how much energy I was putting in to appear neurotypical, even when I was alone, and especially around other people. And that is, you know, not just for me, but probably for a lot of autistic people who've experienced autistic burnout. The masking is one of the biggest contributing factors to burnout because you're doing it all the time. It takes up a lot of energy, and until you start to actually accept yourself as the autistic person that you are, it is really, really hard to stop masking and like take the mask off. And it's hard even when you do start to accept yourself as you are. I've been in the process of accepting myself for who I am and how I am, and I can say pretty confidently, like at this point in time, I accept myself as I am to a greater extent than I ever have in my life. I still have work to do. Like I still have a ways to go, but I still struggle to unmask. Because I'm in this process of like actively working on unmasking, I notice when I'm doing it, and sometimes I can be so aware of the fact that I'm doing it, but just not be able to stop.
I feel like some people, especially non-autistic people, and especially people who don't have direct experience with masking and attempting to unmask, I feel like it may seem like something that you can just stop doing. You know, if it's something that takes so much energy to do, it should be something that you can just stop and stop using that energy for that purpose. But I want to compare it to something like biting your nails, you know, like any kind of quote unquote bad habit that you know is not good for you, you know is not helping you, and it doesn't feel good to do it, and yet it's still really hard to stop. That's what masking is like. I know it's not serving me. I know that it doesn't feel good, but it is such a habit. And I've formed this habit over a lifetime. It is going to take time to stop. I wish it was as easy as just taking the mask off and that be all there is to it. That's not all there is to it, unfortunately. And that's not even considering the fact that sometimes you do actually have to mask. Like sometimes you are in situations where you know, you're around people who are not going to understand and accept you. It may not even be safe to completely unmask. That's a whole other conversation, I feel. But when I'm talking about unmasking here in this conversation, mostly what I'm talking about is like the unnecessary masking. I'm trying to get rid of that. I'm trying to get rid of the habit of masking around people that I should not have to mask around. The people who know me and love me, and like they're not going to think any less of me or abandon me or whatever if they see me as I am in my entirety, you know?
It's especially hard once I have started masking. It's much easier to like resist the temptation to mask if I'm aware of it before it actually starts. It's harder to stop once it has actually started. And I know that that's something that I'm gonna have to continuously work on for a while. I am honestly just glad that I'm in a place where I feel like I can unmask, like even a little bit. Anyway, yeah, unmasking, it's a big deal to me at least, and probably for a lot of other autistic people. And I think that my efforts to unmask are definitely one of the things that is helping me recover from autistic burnout. She's done. Hemmed the skirt. I ended up leaving the middle tier of the skirt as it is because I tried it on after I hemmed the bottom and it did look fine to me. I was worried that it wouldn't. I was worried it would look a little bit weird, but I think it still looks good, so I left it the way it is. I want to put together my outfit for Nightgowns, and I do want to wear this skirt, and I'm thinking this bodysuit underneath, mesh long sleeve underneath that, harness over top. Are we seeing the vision? Now it's gonna be a little bit chilly and we are gonna be like out and about all afternoon before the show. So I'm gonna wear my fleece lined tights underneath, but I like to spice these up with a pair of lace tights over top to add a little bit of texture. But I don't know if I wanna go with red or white. The white feels like it makes more sense because there's white in the bodysuit and there is no red in the bodysuit. There is a little bit of like orange. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I'm kind of thinking red tights, red nails, red lip. So I'm gonna try those on, see what they look like. I'm also gonna wanna see if the outfit looks okay with my sneakers, because I am not about to be walking around the city all day in either of my other options. Whichever pair of shoes I decide to wear to the show, I'm still gonna bring them with me and just change my shoes before we go to the show, but I'm not gonna be wearing either of those walking around the city. I'm a chronic pain girly, so I need my sneakers. And then I'll have to figure out outerwear options too. All right, let's see how this all works. So here's the thing. You can't even see the tights. The only time you would see the tights is maybe if I'm sitting in a chair and I'm, you know, got my leg crossed over the other and you see a little bit of a leg, you know. So I really don't think that it matters what color tights I wear, because you're only ever gonna see like a peek of it here and there. In which case, the red could be a nice touch. Cute little pop of color. I'm gonna put on the sneakers. I don't hate them. They're not ideal. You know, like, they're not the vibe, but I don't think the vibe is going to be achieved with sneakers. But I must wear my sneakers, so I think they will have to do. I do love the rest of the outfit though. I really love the rest of the outfit. I'm gonna go ahead and try the red tights on just for funsies, and then try on my other two pairs of shoes and decide which one of those I want to wear to the show. I actually ended up really liking the red tights a lot more than the white tights. I think they add a really fun pop. My shoe options for the show are these little heeled pointed toe booties, or my Doc Martens. I do like these ones. Let's see the Doc Martens. The heels just add a little something something. I like the Doc Martens, but I like them more for like a dressed down version of this outfit. Heels it is. Okay, outerwear. I'm thinking leather jacket. I may need something else underneath it because I don't know if this is gonna be warm enough. I think I really like the jacket. I'm gonna try putting a black cardigan underneath this to add some warmth. The cardigan really bulks up the jacket in a way I don't know if I like, and it feels really tight. I don't think I'm gonna be comfortable. I really like the cardigan. I think I like the cardigan even more than I like the leather jacket, but I don't know if just a cardigan is gonna be warm enough. Why haven't we figured out how to control the weather? This would be so much easier. Scarf / shawl moment? That might work. And if it doesn't work, then get Weeball. I'll freeze if I have to.
I ended up not even wearing this outfit. The more I thought about it, the more the idea of wearing a strapless top and a harness for an entire day sounded so miserable, and it just would have been absolute sensory hell for me, especially in like an unfamiliar environment, doing an activity that is not a part of my routine, that is like familiar and comfortable to me. I have a certain threshold for discomfort, and that threshold gets lower and lower the more factors are involved that are like either unexpected, unfamiliar, out of my comfort zone, etc., etc. So on a day where I was going to be away from home, away from my comfort zone all day, and in a place that is pretty unfamiliar to me, I needed to make myself as comfortable as possible. Like, I needed to eliminate as much discomfort as possible. And in this case, that just meant wearing a more comfortable outfit. I did still end up wearing the skirt because the skirt is comfortable. And also I spent time hemming it and I wanted that to not go to waste. So I still wore the skirt. I didn't even bother changing my shoes. I just wore my sneakers the entire time. And I just wore like a more comfortable sweater instead of that whole situation. I still liked the outfit that I ended up wearing. And I hope to find an opportunity to wear the outfit that you just saw some other time because I really did love it. I just could not get myself to wear it on this particular day. It would have been too uncomfortable. Okay, so I'm realizing I didn't talk about Mayhem. And I didn't even mention the fact that I also listened to Tsunami Sea by Spiritbox. It has been over a week now since I listened to both of those albums. I have had some time to sit with these albums, let them marinate. More so Tsunami Sea than Mayhem, which is not to say that I didn't love Mayhem. I did. I loved it. But I just feel like I'm more in a place to absorb a new Spiritbox album than a new Lady Gaga album. Even though I was so excited for Mayhem before it came out, I loved the singles, especially Abracadabra. I could not get enough of that song. Like, the moment it came out, I was hooked and it was like on repeat constantly for me. Loved Abracadabra. It's still one of my favorite songs on Mayhem now that the entire album has come out, but I do have some other favorites. I still also love Disease, but I would say besides those two, besides the singles, Perfect Celebrity and How Bad Do You Want Me are my other like top tracks on the album. I love both of those songs a lot. I love this album. I am really looking forward to revisiting it at a later time, like when I feel more in a place to appreciate new Gaga music, like at the highest level that I can appreciate it. I feel the need to keep repeating myself that I did love this album. I definitely haven't listened to it as many times since release as I have listened to Tsunami Sea by Spiritbox, because that was much more an album that I was ready to appreciate. So love Mayhem, really looking forward to revisiting it at a later time. Tsunami Sea, on the other hand, was an album that I was very prepared to absorb and appreciate to the fullest extent. And I feel like I only continue to love this album more the more I listen to it. When I was listening to the first song on the album for the first listen, I was just like this the whole time. Because it felt so like euphoric to be listening to new Spiritbox music. And also like Fata Morgana, the first track on the album, is fucking elite. I love it. And I would say that it's one of my favorite tracks on this album. In fact, let me just go through my favorite tracks right now. Perfect Soul is a song that really grows on me and has grown on me so much. I don't think that I gave that song the appreciation and attention that it deserved when it came out as a single, but now having heard it like in the context of the whole album, I just grow to love it more and more, and it has become one of my favorite songs on this album. It is so beautiful, and every time I listen to the album and that song comes on, I'm just delighted. I'm happy to be listening to it. Soft Spine continues to unbelievably hard. When the singles were coming out, Soft Spine was my favorite. It remains one of my favorite songs on the album. I still can't get enough of it. And I would say that I had a similar experience to my experience with Perfect Soul when it comes to No Loss, No Love, because I also feel like I didn't give that one enough appreciation the first time I listened to it as a single. I think I only listened to that song once, maybe twice, before the album came out. But again, now that I've listened to the whole album, No Loss, No Love is one of my favorites, and every time it comes on, I'm happy. I'm happy. Deep End is another one in a similar vein as Perfect Soul. It's just a beautiful song and definitely has become one of my favorites. Black Rainbow is another top track for me. Love that one. And I think the last one I want to talk about is A Haven with Two Faces, because upon first listen, that song was my favorite on the album. And I think it's still my favorite on the album, if for no other reason but the insanely smooth transition in the middle of the song, as well as the transition from Courtney like singing a note to screaming it within a breath. When I was listening to it for the first time, it fucking blew my mind. I get like almost giddy every time I listen to it since. It's so good. So good. I can't get enough of this album. I'm having a similar experience with Tsunami Sea as I did with Negative Spaces by Poppy, where after I listened to it for the first time, it was on repeat, like constantly for a good while. It was all I wanted to listen to. That's how I'm experiencing Tsunami Sea. It is a fantastic album. I'm so pleased. I have like really been anticipating new Spiritbox music, and this album like truly gave me everything I wanted. I could not be more pleased with it. And I'm incredibly fucking bummed that I'm not seeing them on their tour. I just simply can't make it happen. But I am seeing Poppy. I don't think I've mentioned that on here, but I'm seeing Poppy on her tour next month. I'm so excited for that. Can't wait to see Poppy. How do I end up talking about Poppy when this is not even about Poppy? Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Ever since I listened to Negative Spaces, like I've been a ride or die Poppy stan. So yeah, those are my mini album reviews for Mayhem and Tsunami Sea.
You fight for us, and we will fight for each and every one of you.
Today was the first day that really felt like spring. It was actually sunny and warm enough to just want to spend the whole day lounging outside in the sunshine, and that is what I did, as much as possible at least. And it was so necessary after the night I had because I barely slept. So today, when I was just, you know, lounging in the sun and absolutely fucking relaxing, I was dozing off periodically while I was out there, and it felt so good. As you can probably tell, I am exhausted. We got home last night at around 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm running on like actually zero sleep right now, but I don't even care because last night was so magical. I don't even know what other words to use to describe it. It was such a magical experience. I knew it would feel so special to finally see one of Sasha Velour's shows because I am such a fan of her. The moment she walked onto the stage, I was just enchanted by her.
And yeah, having been such a huge fan of her for quite some time, it was so special to finally see one of her performances in person. I will never forget it. It was also amazing to see Bosco for the first time in person. Like, I love Bosco so much. You don't understand. And I love her even more after her performance last night. She is incredible. She is so beautiful. Oh my god. Yeah, just absolute top tier drag show. I am so happy we went. It will go on to be one of my favorite memories with my two friends that I went with ever, probably. Last night was just such a fantastic time. Not even just the show itself, but just like the time that we spent together. I so cherish these memories that I get to have with my closest friends. The entirety of yesterday will continue to be one of my favorite memories with the two of them. I do not know how I got so lucky to know them and be their family, because they truly are my family. And if you guys are watching right now, I'm sorry if I'm making you cry. I love you. There were multiple points throughout the day and night yesterday where I, in the past, definitely would have found myself masking, and I didn't. This time I did not mask. That felt really liberating. And once again, I feel so incredibly lucky and fortunate to have these two people as my chosen family, because they make it so easy for me to not have to mask. Not only when it's just the three of us. I mean, that in and of itself is something I'm really grateful for. The fact that I feel safe and comfortable unmasking with them. But just being with them makes me feel braver and more capable of unmasking, even when there are other people around. We were standing in line at the venue and I was just out there like bouncing and swaying and like rocking on my heels and, you know, like just stimming in public out there on the sidewalk. And I was not self-conscious about it at all because of the people I was with. I feel so grateful to be in a place in my life right now where I am becoming so much more, like noticeably and significantly so much more, I don't even know if confident is the right word, but okay with being myself, like okay with being the person I am. I want to cry right now. What the f? I have been finding it easier and easier these days to quiet that voice in my head that tells me to worry about what other people are thinking when they're perceiving me, and just disregard that voice entirely, because it's not telling me anything that matters. It's not telling me anything that is helpful to me, and maybe it's left over from a time when it was actually benefiting me, where it was protecting me in some way, but I don't feel that it is anymore at this point in my life. I feel like I am becoming more and more myself, and that of course is in large part due to all of the work that I've been doing over the last couple of years of my life. You know, that like deep inner work of which I have been doing a lot. And it also helps that I have people in my life who make me feel safe to be the person I am entirely. I feel braver and more capable of embodying the person I am because they love me. Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna fucking cry. Anyway, I'm exhausted, and if I keep talking, like, I will burst into tears, mostly because I'm so tired. And I get really emotional and quick to tears when I'm exhausted and sleep deprived. So I think I'm gonna end the vlog here. I love where I'm at right now. It feels really good. And I feel like I've said that so many times in this vlog, but it just continues to be true. So I keep saying it and probably will continue to keep saying it. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you being here and witnessing me becoming more and more the person I am. And I hope that you stick around to see more of it as time goes on. Take care of yourselves, and I will hopefully see you again in another video very soon.